The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of this weekend's BYU football and the new look Big 12 Conference. First and 12 is sponsored by Macy's Grocery Store. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Hour number 2 is off and running here on First and 12 every Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon, here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone. Also on podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, and on the KSL Sports app. However, and wherever you're listening, we appreciate you. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. Alex, man, this was tough, but it's time. We've got to unveil our latest installment of the Big 12 Power Rankings.
The Big 12 Power Rankings Big Board. A weekly rank of all 12 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
Tops of the power rankings, of course, stays the same because they didn't play this week. Oklahoma and Texas, after their Red River rivalry from last week, staying right at the top there. And really, they're the only consistent part of this thing, Mitch. I mean, it's like, thank heavens they didn't play a game this weekend. Otherwise, we'd have to be shifting everybody else around. We got some consistency. That's what we wanted in this thing. So, Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma number 1, Texas number 2. After that, it's anybody's freaking conference to be had between 3 and, frankly, 12, right? I mean, that's kind of because 13 and 14, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're going to get impressed by Baylor and UCF at some point this year. Baylor will probably only be impressed with after they let Dave Aranda go. I mean, just like it's like when they lay off a bunch of people at a company and they go, "Ooh, the stock price went up." That's like Baylor's most important improvement that they could have is probably getting rid of some of those coaches. All right, so after 1 and 2, we ruminated on this one. And I still feel okay about it. I don't want you to feel – you're like, I feel that ick for putting Kansas State at number 3. But I'm okay with Kansas State being number 3. They got a nice win in Lubbock last night. And 5 touchdowns from your quarterback is not a bad way to do it. And you're the defending champions. You kind of got some of your swagger back a little bit. And I just don't see – I don't see all the other teams behind them doing enough. Everybody else is eating each other behind them. And I think that's the only reason you kind of put them at 3.
And out of any of these teams that's kind of in the next grouping after Texas and Oklahoma, I'm going to trust a Chris Kleiman team to start to turn things around. And they did in Lubbock with a freshman quarterback in Avery Johnson. Number 4, how about this one? A couple weeks ago, we would have laughed at the idea of this team being in the top 4, but Iowa State, they're 3-1 in league play, 4-3 overall. Remember, Alex, they lost to Ohio, not the Ohio State. They lost to the Bobcats in Athens. And Iowa State checking in at number 4.
Iowa State's number 4, and I think that's a good pick because they've probably done more than anybody right now. Yes, I think we've seen them do more than anybody in the last couple of weeks. Is that wrong? I mean, aside from Oklahoma, right? But I mean, in terms of a shock as to where they are on this list, we for 1 second had that discussion about Iowa State maybe even surpassing Kansas State. That's how good Matt Campbell's team has been so far. West Virginia at 5, I'm okay with that one because of how they lost that game. That really is a cruddy way to lose that one. And I know it's Houston, and I know Houston's found themselves at the bottom of the list, but that's just about right. A team at the very bottom beating a team in the upper middle levels. That's kind of where we've seen that. So West Virginia is at number 5.
Number 6, Kansas. I got to say, Alex, it would be interesting to see where Kansas would be with a healthy Jalen Daniels. The last time we saw him was when they took on BYU, and they looked great. They looked like they were ready to be a title contender. They've been, 500 team without him. Jason Bean's done a nice job, and he's a good backup quarterback. I mean, what a luxury for Kansas to have him. But they had a tough loss to Oklahoma State, so they're slipping a little bit. They've got the talent to be, vying in that top 4 of the league, but you lose on the road. You got to eventually win some games on the road in league play if you want to be in that upper tier of this conference.
Besides Iowa State, the team at number 7 that has shocked both you and I think everybody, and I think it's exactly the way we should have. I don't know why we fell for this. I know this is what Mike Gundy does like every year it seems like, but Oklahoma State, with that win over Kansas, has inched their way up and out of the obscurity at the very bottom of the basement But they've been creeping up week upon week here after those embarrassing losses that they had at the beginning of the season. But Oklahoma State now number 7 and moving on up. And Mike Gundy's, kind of looking a little bit more like himself. Oklahoma State looking a little bit more like themselves. A couple good wins over the past couple of weeks has them at the number 7 spot. 8 and 9, this is where we start to get really, really sticky here, Mitch.
TCU checks in at number 8 as after they get that huge win over team number 9, BYU. The Cougs fall 4 spots in this power ranking, and I think that's fair after a beatdown by 33 points to TCU, who was at the number 10 spot, so they jump up 2 places in the power rankings. I think this is fair, and it's a big tumble for the Cougars as they don't look like they, suddenly are in that vying for that top 5 spot. But hey, this league's crazy. Anything can happen. Cannibalism's going to happen in this conference. It does. But BYU took a big step back in this loss to TCU.
Let me just make another little plea as to why BYU should be in that spot as well. I know they're 4-2, and there's some teams with maybe a few more losses ahead of them, including TCU. But I will say that ranking kind of goes along with how productive they've been, right? I mean, that offense has been – the numbers reflect about that type of a team. In fact, it felt a little bit like, oh, boy, I think that those chickens are finally coming home to roost on some of those weird, wonky numbers that showed them being outgained every game, every week, every time. And then finally TCU goes, no, we're not going to do this thing. We're going to outgain you, and we're going to embarrass you too. And that's why BYU is now at 9, which is crazy because they've been moving up the entire time. And they started out at that 9, 10, and 11 spot for some of these folks throughout the beginning of the year there. So where they're going to end up, who knows? But there you go. Another team that's kind of made a little bit more of some strides and then went backward a little bit is Texas Tech. This past week, Texas Tech was number 6 on our list, and now they go another 4 spots down. It was kind of an embarrassing loss at home to Kansas State, and I think you're also looking at a team that's licking their wounds with another I know you're shocked, Mitch, but a quarterback injury for another team in the conference.
Well, and Texas Tech cannot stop the run.
Nope.
And if you're looking ahead going back to BYU, if you can't run on Texas Tech, you're not going to be able to run on anyone because Tech just cannot get anything done in their rush defense. Number 11, Houston. They deserve some props for pulling out a win. It was a wonky finish, wild, crazy game in H-Town, but Cougs get it done, taking down the Mountaineers, so they bump up from the cellar at number 14, up 3 spots to number 11.
How about Cincinnati, who cannot buy a win right now in conference play? And the Bearcats have now lost 4 games in a row, including one to BYU. But just looking week upon week, Cincinnati, the Bearcats have been a shock to me because I thought that they would maybe come in. And I know that this is not the playoff team from a few years ago. I know that this is not Luke Fickell running the program anymore. What I do know, though, is that they know how, some of these cats know how to win, man. And so that's why it's been a shock to me that they haven't been able to pull some things together because they have NFL talent on the roster. And it just surprises me to get to 4 losses in a row. And, who knows how long this free fall is going to end up with the Bearcats.
Number 13, Baylor. Mac Rhodes, their AD, calling out Jeff Grimes, the offensive coordinator, and the head coach, Dave Aranda, saying they got to change things up offensively. They had a bye this weekend. He said that in an interview with 365 Sports. What changes do you think is going to happen with Baylor on offense?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be I don't know exactly what you change. I don't know if Jeff Grimes gets shifted around. I don't know if how this works in this business, Mitch. The head coach, if they're going to, before they save themselves, they start pairing off some of the people that are around them. Is that going to affect the former offensive coordinator of BYU, Jeff Grimes? And that Baylor team has just – I haven't seen anybody go from Big 12 end of the season champion from 2 years ago to last year being very middle of the road to this year being very, very, very bad and, frankly, looking like a team that anybody could go down there to Waco to beat. Number
14, UCF. They take on the cellar. The Knights are in that 14th spot. Would not have seen that coming this year. I got to say, though, I don't know when it's going to get fixed for UCF. They just seem like a team that's not trying hard. Gus Malzahn got a big contract extension. Things aren't looking good in Orlando, the place that they call the future of college football. It's looking like it's not being ignited yet for the Knights.
You know what it's really looking like, Mitch, is that all of these teams that have come in, 3 from the AAC, BYU is an independent. all the things that people dreaded from their fan bases, which is like, hey man, it's a gauntlet. As soon as you get into that Big 12, conference play, it's going to be a rigor week in and week out. And it's not just that; it's proven to be beyond, hard for these teams to be able to adjust. And I think it just has to do with, it's not that they don't have the talent. I think that they just have to adjust to all the attention, all the week in, week out. The travel's a little bit different. And then there's just no rest for the wicked in these things. Well, you get a bye week, and that's about it. But you know what? Every week, any of these teams, as they've proven, can beat each other.
And I think one thing, too, that we've learned in Big 12 play around the midway point of the season, there's no just, Purdue in this league where you're going to win by 20 or 30 every single week. There's in the Big 10 and the SEC, they got their Vanderbilts, they got their Purdue. There's none of that in this Big 12. Like UCF, if they're the worst team in this league, it speaks to this league has got some depth. Now it's a bunch of 7-5, 6-6, 8-4 depth this year, but there's talented teams that it's truly no weeks off. Whereas in the Big 10 and SEC, there's about 2 or 3 weeks where you're probably going to get it done, and you're going to win that game, and because this team is just a mess. That's not the case in this conference, and maybe UCF could be that, but if that's the worst team, I think it shows the depth in this league. We got to take a break, though, Alex. On the other side, we'll get to our Big 12 Sound Roundup, the best cuts, the quotes from all the coaches and players around the conference. It's 1st and 12 here on the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio.
Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Check 1, 2.
The best bites, cheap shots, and excuses from Saturday's post-game news conferences.
All right, welcome back. It is your Big 12 Sound Roundup. 1st and 12, by the way, brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping. Mitch Harper down in Texas still. Mitch, did you just prefer to go down and spend some extra time in the Lone Star State? I know you actually have some other travel obligations that you're doing this week. You're going to put your basketball hat on and head up to Kansas City a little bit later, right?
I am. I'm going to go to Big 12 Basketball Media Day in the T-Mobile Center. And so I'll be flying out tomorrow to KC. But, yeah, making the Big 12 rounds. Big 12's hub in football is here in Texas, and then the basketball hub is KC.
Yeah,
hard
you
to
see
believe
that
basketball's almost here already.
Yeah, I know that they have to kind of play nice with the big dogs. You got to let Kansas make sure everybody knows, right?
Sure.
But could you ever see the Big 12 Media Days being in? I mean, Brett Yormark, couldn't you see that guy putting it in Las Vegas at some point? Come on,
absolutely, because now that market's open, Pac-12 is going to be, at least from the 12-team side of it, done.
Dude, you do it in
It's going to continue with a 2-team league, but
you do it in the sphere. You got to put it in the sphere, bro. You got to put it in the sphere. It's going to have the Big 12 logo rolling on there. I know it'll cost a little extra coin, but Brett Yormark's good for it. Come on, let's go.
They could use the newcomers' money that they're not getting from their full share and just throw it to the sphere.
Oh my goodness! I did see some of those advertising rates. I think for like the day, it's like $119,000 to like, or something like that. Or maybe it was the hour, or for maybe it was the day. It was like $400,000. So hey,
if Yormark wants to be younger, hipper, cooler,
come on,
you got to get in the sphere.
You got to get the sphere. You got to get a Big 12 logo on that thing on the strip with that thing on it.
TCU's kind of doing something younger, hipper, and cooler. They're going to have Rick Ross for their basketball Midnight Madness this week. I was
that's
seeing
awesome.
that free admission. I thought I might need to go swing in and go check that thing out.
Yeah,
Rick
man.
Ross.
Hey, and BYU's got the SI models and
this week.
Who's coming in? DJ Jazzy Jeff. I didn't see who the DJ. It's not
DJ
Pauly.
Ricky Barrera, and then
of course.
And then they're going to have SI swimsuit models on a TED Talk panel with Relief Society president. So in honor of Sunday, we brought that up.
You know what? If you're not getting down there and getting educated from a panel that has an SI swimsuit model and the General Relief Society president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, come on.
Name a more iconic duo. I'll wait.
I'll wait. That's
iconic duo.
That's a 21st century right now that we are in. Like if you try to go back and tell your grandparents, no, it's a forum. No. It's because but listen, hold on, they're in the Big 12 now.
Younger, hipper, cooler.
Hipper, totally cool. All right, let me see here. Mitch, the Sound Roundup of our Big 12. Let's start things
check
off
1,
here.
2, mic check.
Yes, let's get things started off here with the very first thing that I, thought about from this week, and I thought, if there was a team that maybe shocked a little bit, I'm not shocked by any win anymore, but Oklahoma State has proven to be very, very, resilient, and they're kind of proving to be exactly what Mike Gundy's always been there, which is as soon as we start to go, no, that guy's time is done in Stillwater, he shows up and has a big win, of course, with his team, and he gets to the podium. And he talked a little bit about all of the things that made the things possible for them to get a win this week and kind of show it and put it on Kansas. Here's what Mike Gundy had to say.
Really good football game, too. Pretty good college football teams playing, and a lot of excitement for everybody. The crowd was unbelievable again. The support, the crowd, students, the game day atmosphere here is better now than it ever has been since I came here in 1986. This is 3 or 4 games in a row where it's just been fantastic out there. Really loud. In the fourth quarter when the defense is on the field, they're loud. Paddle people are working, and it looks good. Very impressed with the support of the people. We played a really good game other than giving up 4 or 5 big pass plays. Now the issue with him is he scrambles around. It's tough to cover for an extended period of time. But for the most part, we wanted to take away their ability to run the football.
Never underestimate those paddle guys, Alex. They always bring that atmosphere at Boone Pickens. But it's good to hear. I mean, because I thought this Mike Gundy Oklahoma State team was, there was rumors that they were going to lose the locker room and that players were not happy, and they've turned it around. And you know what? You said it earlier, Alex, but I think you're right. Why did we ever not expect a Mike Gundy team to be in a position to get to a bowl game? I mean, that's just what he does, right? I mean, every year since 2005, since he's been the head coach, he's gotten to a bowl game every year, and he's well on his way to doing that. A team that we did not expect to be anywhere close to bowl contention was West Virginia, and they took a step back, an unexpected step back this weekend as they lost to Houston on a Hail Mary. This is West Virginia head coach opening statement addressing that final Hail Mary against Houston.
First of all, everybody's going to want to talk about the last play of the game. We didn't lose the game on the last play of the game. We had multiple chances to win the game, and we didn't do it. I'm not very pleased with how we played in 2 out of 3 phases. Like defensively and on special teams, we did not play good enough. We absolutely did not play good enough. Where we lost the game is discipline, and that's what's gotten to this point.
I know you guys don't want to talk. I know you guys want to ask me about that final play. Like, of course we do. But we didn't lose it on the final play. Well, I want to go back and show you the video.
Yeah, you got to do.
Because you kind of lost it on that one. And look, every coach is going to go, yeah, look, we didn't play well. I like the attitude, though, of Neil Brown where he goes, look, I know people expect us to be bad right now, but we can't do that. We can't start to lose to Houston, right? We've had too good of a year so far. We've been underestimated in so many of these games, so we can't have these games where we come out and we have, we disappoint ourselves, because beating Houston should have been one that was on the list of, oh, yeah, that's a game you should definitely win, and they didn't do it. Speaking of Houston, Dana Holgorsen, the head coach of the Houston Cougars, rolling in and giving his thoughts in the post game on that, not just that final play, but really, they got their first win in Big 12 conference play.
I guess the football guys were on our side today, so we'll take it. It's good to get that first Big 12 win. I'm excited for our team, and they're working hard. They're working hard, and Big 12's hard.
Big 12's hard. We got to pull that one, man. That one's got to be like our new
racket.
I mean, look, 1st and 12 is a good show name. But Big 12's hard should just be – maybe we think about that being the podcast in the show next year.
We
Big
need
12's
to get
hard.
Some remix. We need to get some auto-tune remix. Big 12's hard.
Big 12's
remix
hard.
that. Pair it up with We Don't Take a Night Off, that basketball track from last March.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to get some collaboration going and do some remix to that. Big 12 is hard. That sounds like a soundtrack for the football season in 2023. We need that so bad.
Make a T-shirt out of it. All right, there's your Big 12 Sound Roundup. We're going to get to our Four Corners Whiparound. You're going to be able to hear some sound as well. The biggest meltdown in all of college football this year at the hands of Stanford football. My goodness. We'll come back. We'll chat about that and much more. Stay right here with us. It is 1st and 12 right here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone and heard on KSL News Radio. Stay with us.
The Four Corners Whiparound. We check on future Big 12 opponents and rivals from the Four Corners.
Welcome back into First and 12. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you. Miss any part of the program, you can listen to the replay here on KSL News Radio 3 to 5 today or on podcast. KSL Sports app and all major podcasting platforms. You know, it's kind of fun, Alex, driving around Dallas-Fort Worth. You see signs that say TCU DFW's Big 12 team. Well, now next year, maybe Salt Lake can say Salt Lake's Big 12 team, Boulder's or Big 12 team. Maybe we'll see those banners in the future for these Pac-12 teams: Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah in our Four Corners Whiparound as we check in with the new teams that are going to be joining next year.
Well, let's start off the top here with the local teams. Of course, everybody, the quarterback situation at Utah is so weird. And at some point, I've told you this, after the documentary is made, well after everybody's graduated, maybe even after Witt has retired, maybe we'll get the real answers of what's been going on up on the hill. But Bryson Barnes gets the start yesterday at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And Cal comes in. They scored first, and I'll tell you, there was a moment that everybody's looking around at each other at the studio and going, "Are you joking right now?" Because in the weeks past, the offense has been so inept by Utah that you're looking and you go, okay, if Cal scored first and then Utah's having to kind of try to come from behind, that's not the way to do it. But Bryson Barnes shows a steady hand, and even with the injuries that these guys have had, they score 34 points. They have their best output on offense the entire season. Boy, they needed it too, because next week they go to the Coliseum and they play a team who's set on revenge, right, with USC, but they also lost to Notre Dame in an embarrassing fashion yesterday at South Bend. And so they'll be ready to play that football game. But I'm interested now. The Utes have reset themselves a little bit, and maybe they kind of get a little bit more normal. But poor Nate Johnson, that guy must be broken. From all accounts that we've heard from up on the hill, that guy, they've messed with that kid's head way too much, and his confidence is shot. And I think that's why you saw Bryson Barnes get the start today.
No question. I couldn't help but think that, and it's just a bummer for him because he's a sharp kid, and you just hate to see when a quarterback gets messed with mentally, because then it's almost like the pitcher in baseball. Are they a broken quarterback, and do they ever recapture that? So you hope that he can turn that around. But I will say, that's how you come back out of a bye week. You know, Utah did what you're supposed to do, and you emphatically get a win over a team that's inferior to you. That's Cal, and Utah got a nice win. But you mentioned Cam Rising. That documentary, when it ever comes out, I'm thinking, what would that 30 for 30 sound like? What if I told you a quarterback that claimed he felt pretty dang good did not feel pretty dang good unless NIL came in? I don't know. No,
I'm telling you. No, you're saying the thing that everybody's thinking, right, where it's like, hold on a minute. If, like, when he said he felt pretty darn good, pretty damn good, right, was the actual quote about going into that Florida game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no way, when you have all that money on the line, I get it. You want to try to protect yourself, but, man, I think everybody got duped a little bit. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine we're going to see. You and I talked about this on Unravel. I just don't know if we're ever going to see that guy even play this year for the Utes.
Alex, you know what else duped me was Colorado. I'm here in my hotel on Friday night thinking, I'm going to watch some college football. 29-0. I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. I was stunned when I woke up and saw that they lost this game.
So I did the thing where I dipped in. I had gotten home late, and I did the reverse of you where I kind of come in and I go, oh, hey, this is a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. And then when I go back and everybody goes, remember when they were up 29-0? I go, wait, what? Troy Taylor and the juggernaut of the offense of what Stanford is. This is as embarrassing of a loss for Coach Prime and his guys. I mean, this was Coach Prime in the post game. He brought it up, and he talked about how ridiculous his team played. But on top of that, you got to get past it and got to go right to it.
Just in like how I felt going in at halftime. We come back out, and here comes the complacency. Here comes that team that I can't stand, that you can't stand, that you can't understand how in the world that happens to us. But it did, and didn't turn it back on, I think, until late in the fourth 1/4 when we were able to go down and get a score, and we go down and, you know, we got to get back. And 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 we got to get back. Then they tied up, and we got overtime, and you don't want to go in overtime because they have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. I was surprised that they kicked the field goal the first time. I thought they was just going to go for 2 and try the best to get it over with. But they were resilient. Big win by them. Horrible loss by us. Let's go.
So there's Prime. He's not too happy, but let's go. Let's get to the next one. I will say, too, I'm watching at the end of the game there, and Stanford just to have a guy go for 294 yards of receptions, and I think that they had gotten that. I think that 280 yards was just in the second half, and the catch over Travis Hunter that he had going into the end zone was a masterpiece. I haven't seen a catch that good all year, and to have it done on him, like put that one up for your film, kid, to go to the NFL. So win of the weekend was Stanford because of that comeback. That was awesome. And Colorado is 4-3 now, and that was supposed to be one that was an automatic one for him. But hey, 12, it's you gotta wake up. It's what is it? Pac-12 hard. Pac-12's hard, man.
Hey, Big 12 ACC showcase, though. It was a split, 1-1. The Utes get the win for the Big 12.
Stop it.
Colorado gets the loss for the Big 12. Stanford, maybe they pulled an old Ute fans would appreciate this. Troy Taylor dialing up the iPhone offense, I guess from his days at Utah. The iPhone offense.
Hey, listen, my kids' football coaches do the same thing now. They're all, I got this playoff TikTok. It's like, okay. It worked for Troy Taylor. Why not? Arizona. I mean, what a year! What a year that Jed Fish has been putting on right now. And Washington State. I think people thought maybe that they were going to do this at some point earlier in the year, but Arizona goes in, and Washington State gets only 6 points. Arizona goes 44-6 over Wazoo. Wazoo will be unceremoniously dipped out of the top 25, but Arizona, I'm happy for the Wildcats, man, because I know that they've been working. They were the absolute basement dweller and the doormat of the Pac-12 for them in Colorado, kind of battling over the last little while, and they've turned it around. And good for them. I really like what Jed Fish has done, and you cannot. It's crazy too because you look and you go. I don't care if it's Delora. I don't care if it's Fafita. They're getting it done. They're scoring a ton of points, and you got to be a little bit nervous for Arizona now if you're Utah fans.
And Jed Fish, he inherited a program that was a rebuild
Abysmal.
down to the studs,
Yep.
and he's done a great job to be year 2.5, third year to be having this much progress where you're winning on the road, winning games big. You almost beat USC. You should have won that game last week. How they lost that was, that was a poor decision by Jed Fish to not go for 2 in that spot on that second overtime. But still, Arizona is a huge turnaround, and that's great because you want these Pac-12 teams, helping lift up the Big 12. I know that a lot of these Big 12 teams do not want to see these Pac-12 programs come in and have any sort of success, but you know what? Someone's got to come in and be a 9-10 win team. And I'm not saying one of these teams is going to be that in year one, but you want the overall quality of the league to be elevated in years to come. And right now, it's good to have Arizona trending up, and Colorado feels like they're trending up, and Utah is holding steady. It's a little bit of a dip year compared to where they were expecting because of all the injuries, but still they're 5-1 at the midway point for them. So it's good to see this success from those teams, and there's no reason to think they can't continue it when they join the Big 12 next year.
Arizona State on a bye. They host or they go up to Seattle to play the Washington Huskies next week. What are you talking about? They beat the Huskies last year down in Tempe. Remember that one?
That's the problem. It's going to be a revenge game for the Huskies, and the Washington's already. That Washington-Oregon game, I was checking in on that in the press box at M&G. And
you got to go watch. You got to go, honestly, go back and just get, see if you can find one of those replays and just give yourself the second half watch of it. I'm telling you, Dan Lanning is going to be kicking himself making these decisions that he did. And it was a instant classic, and there's a reason that those two teams are the best right now in the Pac-12. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We're going to wrap things up with getting you ready for next week as the Big 12 schedule gets rolled out. We'll kind of show you what the key games are for next week as the teams who are coming out of buys, some teams who are going to go into it. So stay right here with us. We'll give you that schedule. It is 1st and 12, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone, and also heard on KSL News Radio. All brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping. We'll be back. More to go.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Welcome back. It is 1st and 12 right here. KSL News Radio, the KSL Sports Zone on a Sunday morning. Also reheard again on KSL News Radio in the afternoon. You can catch it from 3 to 5 if you missed any portion of it. You can also download the podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. Mitch, I was disappointed with the push that KSL News Radio put out, and I think it didn't help BYU's efforts. When the kickoff happened yesterday, the push notification to my phone is BYU looks to eclipse TCU. Wank. And I went, you know what? BYU deserves to lose 44-11 after that. You can't do that. No, it's not like I think you put the push out, but I thought, oh my goodness. Sure enough, though, yesterday we're watching kids football games, and that eclipse was there were kids on the field staring at the sun, and I thought, what have come over our youth? And the referees are like, don't look at the sun. It was the weirdest thing. Don't look at the sun, kids. They told you not to do it. So maybe that's what the BYU has that as an excuse for yesterday. All right, let's look ahead. Lots of scheduling, of course. Lots of games. Again, this thing just keeps going. This is why conference play is amazing, because if you're BYU and you had a game like you did, nothing better than the balm of being able to go out and go, hey, let's beat Texas Tech at home and maybe get things back on track again. And honestly, things get right with the world again when you win, Mitch.
That they do. And BYU will kick it off against Texas Tech this week, 5 p.m. on KSL News Radio, FS1 TV broadcast.
Nice.
You'll have pregame going at around 4 o'clock on the KSL Sports Zone. I'm going to get things started at high noon, extended pregame. It's like a Super Bowl coverage for BYU Texas Tech here on KSL News Radio. But hey, we've got you covered for an important game for BYU, because all these opportunities, you got to get to a bowl game. That's got to be the goal, Alex. I think Cougar fans out there listening, if you're trying to set what should expectations be, just get to 6. The chase for 6 wins. You see how – I know that sounds underwhelming because you want more. BYU's got a winning tradition. They've got great success over the last 5 decades.
Yeah.
But just get to 6 in this first year in the Big 12, because this league, anything can happen. And if you can find a way to carve out at least 2 more wins, that's an accomplishment. And I think this is one of those games you've got to get, because with Texas and Oklahoma still on the schedule, those opportunities are dwindling, Alex.
Yeah, and I'll say, too, when we started to look at during our postgame yesterday about this very topic, because then you start to look around and you go, okay, in these next six games here, where does BYU get these 2? And it's like, you better freaking steal that one from Texas Tech in Provo. You better make it close against Iowa State. You better go to Oklahoma State and try to get the Cowboys on Thanksgiving weekend, because Texas at Texas and Oklahoma and Provo are going to be absolutely difficult games. Yeah. And West Virginia at West Virginia, that now has become a difficult game. So now you're right. Every week it's like wringing your hands going, how are they going to pull that one out? But obviously that's the big one for next week for BYU fans. But let's go to what the rest of the conference looks like. UCF and Oklahoma getting things started off early. That's an ABC game. And UCF, I wouldn't imagine they'd be the ones to shock Oklahoma. But at this point, considering how the league has gone, I have no idea what to think about this game, Mitch.
That would be epic, Big 12. Brett Yormark would be celebrating. The offices in Irving would be just thrilled to see UCF knock off Oklahoma, but it's not happening.
Okay, fine.
Baylor at Cincinnati, another first-time matchup. UCF, Oklahoma is also a first-time meeting. Baylor at Cincinnati, 10 a.m. on ESPN+. That's an interesting game from 2 teams that are looking to get a much-needed win.
Yeah, something's got to give. And Baylor has been awful at home, and now they have to actually go out on the road, which is like something that they haven't had to do much of yet so far in this young season. Cincinnati's lost 4 in a row. They're going to look to try to get right, and Baylor might be the ones who suffer at the hands of the Bearcats. Oklahoma State at West Virginia. This looked early in the season before we even started the year up. It's going to be an auto win for Oklahoma State, but no, this should be one of those that should actually be a really, really good game. These two teams, in terms of our rankings, they're right there by each other, and Oklahoma State might be the one who has the edge this week. I could see the odds makers putting that one up in there early for Oklahoma State, just because they've kind of got a little bit of a streak going on here, and West Virginia's coming off of that weird loss to Houston.
I never thought I'd be saying this, but Texas is going to be playing a game at Houston again. First time since 2002, Texas is facing off against the Houston Cougars. 2 p.m. on Fox. Any chance you think Holgerson and the Cougs threaten Texas in this old Southwest rival?
Stop it, okay?
Any chance?
No. In fact, I'll tell you right now, Texas is actually offended by this game. I'm not kidding. You know it. Having lived there myself as a kid, Texas does not play nice with other people who are not in the same conference as you, and especially going to your stadium.
They call it Cougar High at Houston.
Yes.
They haven't been there since 2001, and I read stories that the bleachers broke, and they fell. The extra bleachers that Houston brought into the stadium, some of them broke, and it was a safety hazard, and Texas swore they would never go to Houston again.
Funny how that works. And now they're conference mates at least for one season, and you got to put up with it, and so got to do it. I would imagine Texas is going to roll in that one. TCU going to Kansas State. It's the Battle of the Purple this next week here. Mitch, that's on ESPN2 at 5 o'clock next week.
Big 12 championship rematch. So that should be a fun game after two teams get big wins, and they might have two freshman quarterbacks starting.
It's going to be a fun one. Lots of good games next week. And despite the 44-11 loss, I still love doing this show with you on Sundays.
Absolutely.
So it's a fun time. Our producer, Eric, who's hitting the buttons in Salt Lake City, we appreciate the work he does as well.
And
yes?
Eric gave us intel that he might be working behind the scenes on that Big 12 is hard remix.
Big 12 hard. Big 12 hard.
So,
let's go. All right. And look, Eric, it's up his alley, I would say. So
yes.
So for Eric, for Mitch, I want to say thanks for joining the show. You can always download the podcast. Listen to us every Sunday morning on KSL News Radio and on the KSL Sports Zone. And also download the podcast wherever you can find it. And let's get it going. For Mitch, I'm Alex. We'll see you next time, everybody.